This is Empowered by Iron podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Kristin Lander, a chiropractic physician, a sports nutritionist, and an elite powerlifter.
And I'm Mary Morton, PhD scientist, sports nutritionist, and weightlifter. This podcast is designed to cut through all the BS out there and teach you what you need to know to excel as a woman in strength sports.
Our topics include mindset and evidence-based training, nutrition, and recovery. No bro science, just facts with a hefty dose of practicality, reality, and some feels mixed in.
Hello, ladies. Before we jump into today's episode, Kristin and I wanted to discuss briefly about some changes in our lives and some growth of our kind of side main companies, Fiercely Fueled Nutrition Coaching, which is Kristin's business, and Intuitive Eating Athlete, which is my new coaching company. So, Kristin, I want to talk to you about Fiercely Fueled and these awesome growth changes that are happening for you.
Yes. So Fiercely Fueled is my one-on-one nutrition coaching company. I have been coaching athletes one-on-one for over 10 years and launched Fiercely Fueled about 4 years ago online. I used to do everything in person. So Fiercely Fueled took it online. And when we did that episode at the end of last year about single tasking and doing less better, and that was going to kind of be our theme for 2020, I was not joking when I said that. I really meant it. Fiercely Fueled is all about performance nutrition. And so I really wanted to grow this company because I think that it's really, really important information. I don't think that there's a lot of companies out there that focus on true performance for strength athletes.
Absolutely.
And so that is my main focus. I have tons of like national and world champions that I work with, people that are national and world record holders, and then also tons of beginners.
Yeah, you have a full plate.
Yes.
And you do primarily macro coaching, right?
I do macro coaching.
That's It's individualized to each person. It's a lot.
It's a lot. It is. And the company has continued to grow, which is awesome. And I was at the point where I felt like I couldn't take on more clients and continue to do a good job.
Yeah.
And so I was at like really kind of figuring out how am I going to continue to grow this company, because I think it's a service that people really, really need. I think that they have been victimized by other companies out there that pretend to be about performance, and they're not. They're not about true performance. And so I thought, like, how can I do this? And I struggled with this for a couple of years. And then finally it occurred to me that what I needed to do was I knew I needed to bring on a couple of coaches, but there's so much misinformation out there. Even people that are nutrition coaches, the amount of like research and education that I had to do on my own to be able to do true performance-based nutrition and evidence-based nutrition for strength athletes was mind-blowing. So I was like, how am I going to do this? Because I don't feel like anyone else knows this the way I do. And I don't mean that to sound egotistical at all. But so what I did was I had 2 athletes I had been working with for a long time.
Basically the whole time you had the company.
Yeah. I've helped them through weight cuts and weight gains and maintenance and performance and like the whole gamut. They know all my methods. I spent a year like training them and educating them on what is true performance-based nutrition for athletes. And then they started accepting clients in January. And it has been awesome. I love like watching them grow. I can focus on just the clients I have, and we're still continuing to get this information out there, which is huge to me. And my goal is to make them better than me.
Yeah. Well, that's what any good boss or employer would do, is you want the people who you bring on your team, you see potential, and you want them to be better than you.
Yeah. So I'm super excited about it. Jared and Britt are my new coaches as of January, and they are crushing it. They're working with athletes of all levels, and it's super fun to see in action. So you guys, single tasking and do less better.
Yep. And if you're interested in signing up for performance-based nutrition using macro tracking, go to fiercelyfueled.com and you can sign up for 4 weeks there.
Yes. And Mary started her own nutrition coaching company, which I've been trying to get her to do for years.
Well, okay, we can just take a step back real quick. I never felt like I was ready, and I don't think you feel like you're ready, but I always thought I needed to do macro coaching because that's what everyone does, right? But macro coaching never worked for me, so I felt like it was very inauthentic.
Yeah, you can't really...
I couldn't coach what I couldn't do. Like,
right.
I know the math. I could have given the math, whatever, but that's not what made me feel good and give me the feels. So I don't know, a few weeks ago, I had a crazy idea one night and I just went with it and I started Intuitive Athlete Nutrition, which is intuitive eating coaching for strength athletes. That doesn't exist anywhere. Right. That is brand new because intuitive eating is always feels and just love yourself and blah, blah, blah. And like, yeah, you need to do that. But also as an athlete, you need to eat. And what I do is I take my clients and I teach them how to eat intuitively, how to eat as an athlete, how to make sure we're eating enough, how to deal with weird scenarios, how to make sure you're eating healthy. Like it is a process, and it's very different than just macro coaching, because macro coaching involves you hit numbers and you hit them or you didn't. And then as your coach, you offer support and you try to teach them tools like, okay, if you're traveling, you might want to do this, or if you're having an off day, here's what you might do. And it's great for people who can track macros. Yep. But what I do, because my clients cannot track macros.
A lot of them are coming from a disordered eating background.
Yeah. And tracking macros triggers some type of habit. We do weekly lessons. So every single week I sit down with them and we meet face to face and we talk about the week. We talk about what they did good, what they did not so good at. And then I build a lesson for the next week for them to focus on. And we keep building lessons until that habit is a habit.
Yes.
And then we build.
By the way, I do that too.
Of course you do. Yes.
Yeah. I was like, wait, I do this with Fiercely Fueled. Okay, carry on.
Yes. It's just
that's
different.
how you teach people.
Yes, that's how you teach. But because it's kind of weird, like there's no numbers. They're like,
yes.
That's what I have to explain to a lot of clients. I'm like, no, we don't have numbers. We just get going, and I kind of build where you're at. I meet you where you're at, and we grow from there. And I have seen some companies out there who do intuitive eating coaching, but it's disguised as a cut.
Yeah. And you're really big on when someone comes to you with a disordered eating background and wants to do intuitive eating and has never done intuitive eating, at least not how you do it, you don't cut.
We don't cut for a long time. If they want to cut eventually, we can get there. But I'm talking like 6 months of work before we even discuss a cut.
Because you can't come from a disordered eating background where you have completely cut off all of your hunger cues and everything surrounding food and feel very confused about food and then try to use intuitive eating to go into a cut. Like it doesn't work that way. It's not going to be intuitive at that point. Yeah. You might get to the point where you can do it intuitively, but you have to learn all the habits first, right?
You have to learn the habits. And that's what I've been working with a lot of athletes on. And they've just been crushing it. And I'm so excited. I feel so fulfilled with intuitive athlete nutrition. I feel like it's this gap in our world that I'm filling, just like Fiercely Fueled filled another gap. I'm filling a different gap. And it just feels awesome to be able to help people in a way and teach them something that really helped me.
Yes, I love it.
Yeah. So if you guys are interested in signing up, you can sign up on my website, intuitiveathletenutrition.com, or if you go to the link in my bio, As Told by Mary Instagram, or Intuitive Athlete Nutrition, you can sign up for a free 15-minute consultation, and we can talk about if this is right for you, if we think we'll be a good fit, and then we can go from there.
Yes. And before we jump into the episode, I want to make a correction.
Which happens.
Yeah. So on the autoimmune disorder episode, I misspoke and I said that irritable bowel syndrome is a autoimmune disease, and it's not. I meant to say inflammatory bowel disease. That is autoimmune. So just a little retraction there and correction. So just so you guys know.
It happens. You heard it here first. Kristin is not perfect.
I am not perfect. I misspeak.
And with that, let's get into today's episode. Hello, ladies. Welcome back to Empowered by Iron. This week, we're going to talk about how goals are hard. And that's the episode, so we're done.
And cut.
No. So I think a lot of us have big goals. We have, or small goals, or just goals in general. And some of us when we get any type of resistance towards those goals, we bail ship. We're like, oh no, there's a big wave. I might as well just jump out into the ocean.
Yes, that's not really the best thing to do.
No, and I think it takes time for you to learn, but we're going to talk a little bit about it and then maybe talk about some different ways you can approach said obstacle to overcome it.
I think that people have this idea like, I want to accomplish this. And they think that if they just like do the work, that they're going to accomplish the goal. Mm-hmm. But there's going to be obstacles in the way. And if you kind of bail ship the first obstacle that comes your way, or the second or the third, my question to you is, did you really want that thing you said you wanted?
Yeah.
If you're just going to bail on it when things get hard, because accomplishing your goals it's hard. It's supposed to be hard. Mm-hmm. I think that if all of the things that people wanted in life, whether it was like weight loss or a big total or whatever, if it was just easy, everyone would do it.
Oh yeah.
It would be what would the challenge be? Right. It's if you want to achieve something, you not only have to work at it, but you have to have a contingency plan for when shit gets real hard.
Yeah.
And when you have obstacles pop up. And I don't mean a backup plan. I mean like a built-in contingency plan. So for instance, say you're trying to cut a weight class to qualify for nationals or worlds or whatever. And you think that you can do this and you've hired a coach. It doesn't end there. You still have to do the work, and there's going to be things that come up. So a lot of us, I would venture to guess that the majority of our listeners work and train or go to school and train. And so you might have like a really hard week at work. You might have some projects that you have to take care of. You might have to work long hours, and that is an obstacle, but that's not an excuse for not following through with your plan to meet your goal. Mm-hmm. And I think I think we have to anticipate that these things are going to happen. And we have to have this contingency plan in place for when this does happen. What am I going to do? So like, for instance, if it's a nutrition coach or a nutrition client that I have, I'm going to say, okay, well, if you know you've got this deadline coming up at work and you're going to have to work longer hours, let's make sure that you meal prep, or at least like do some sort of prep that's going to keep you on pace with your goal. Because just because life is happening doesn't mean that your bigger goal of dropping this weight class and qualifying for a national level meet it doesn't exist. Like our goals don't exist in vacuums.
No. So that makes me think of a story when I was in first grade. We would make puzzles out of paper. So our teacher would print out a puzzle cutout on a paper, and we would cut the puzzle out. And rather than take one sheet of paper and just make it work, I was like obsessed with getting it cut right. Instead of just making it work for me, to be like, okay, I maybe cut a little bit weird on that puzzle, but it's a puzzle. If I'm going to cut it weird, it probably still will fit together. I went through every single sheet of paper of that puzzle that she printed, and she just printed enough for everyone, and tried to make it perfect. Like instead of having a puzzle that I could play with, I went through and ruined it for everyone. I bailed ship every time I did something wrong.
You kept starting over.
I kept starting over. Yeah. I never got to complete it. I got a pink slip. I got sent to the principal because she thought I was doing something wrong. But I was like obsessed with being perfect. And when it wasn't perfect, I bailed ship. And life is not going to be perfect. Right. And you can't bail ship every time. Life isn't perfect.
Right.
And I think this speaks to something we talk about in Eat for Strength a lot, is accepting where you are right now, and then making sure that you know yourself well enough to set goals for yourself. Because a lot of us will set goals that we think that looks good.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you think it looks impressive, so let's do that.
Yeah, like I when I did powerlifting, I knew that I could qualify for nationals. And I didn't personally care about qualifying for nationals. Like, I gave 0 fucks. And that came out when I tried to qualify. I didn't make my total. But that was because I was more concerned about what other people thought of me and how having I could put in my Instagram bio, competed at nationals. Like, I could put that in there and how that would be perceived by others rather than what did I really want to do.
Right.
And so anytime I had a bad training session, I bailed ship. Anytime my nutrition wasn't on point, it was over. Anytime, like every little thing, I was like, oh, I quit, I give up, because it wasn't a goal I really wanted.
Yeah. So that's the other thing, is making sure that the thing that you're working really hard towards is what you actually want to be working really hard towards. That you're willing to actually put in the work and face these challenges head on and not give up when things get hard. And if you are, I say this to people all the time, if you're going to give up the moment that things get hard, I don't think that was your goal.
No,
I don't think that was actually something you wanted.
It wasn't. And that may be really hard to hear as someone who you thought that was your goal. But if you really sit down and think about who you are and where you are right now. So a lot of this can apply to, like, let's say, cutting a weight class. I hate to use that as an example, but
I know, because we always say don't cut weight classes. People do it anyway.
They do it anyway. But a lot of us will say, I want to cut a weight class so bad. But they can't accept that right now they are way far away from that weight class, or that they don't have a good relationship with food, or that they're just not happy with their body right now. Like they can't accept where they are, because they should be further than this. They should be this, they should be that. So they end up screwing themselves over and over because they can't accept that right now they're not in a good spot.
Yes.
I think once you accept that you are not in a good spot right now, you don't love everything about you right now, and that's okay, that's when we can experience real growth. And that's when we start to know ourselves better. So like for me, when I actually sat with myself and thought, wow, I really screwed up that meet. I didn't hit a total. I didn't qualify for nationals. Why? And when I realized, it was like, oh, because I can't not binge every other day. I absolutely hate my body right now. I hate training. Like, of course I was going to fail because I hadn't accepted that those things were true about me. And I made a goal based off these false things that I'd made up for myself.
Right. And that's kind of self-sabotaging behavior, right? Like you
set
yourself up for failure. You picked a goal that, given your current circumstances, you weren't going to be able to attain because you weren't dealing with the things that were going to pop up as obstacles, right? So that's like classic self-sabotaging behavior.
Yeah.
And I think it's difficult for people to recognize when they're in it and when they're going through it, that you set yourself up for failure sometimes just based on what your goal is.
If you make a goal and you think to yourself, it would be nice if I could accomplish this goal, that's not your goal. Just stop. That's not your goal. Because if it's a real goal, if it's something you really want to do, there is no if this works.
Yes.
It's going to work.
Yes.
And if you say, if this is going to work, this would be great if it worked.
Yep.
You don't want it, and you're just self-sabotaging. You are setting yourself up for this life of failure that you have lived so far because you're not being true to who you are. Wow, that was harsh. I'm so sorry. But I went through it too. It was hard. It was a lot of growth I had to do. But it all started with accepting that my goals were not my goals.
Yeah. Well, and I think another side to this is taking responsibility for yourself.
Oh, yeah.
And for your life.
And stop blaming things on your circumstances or anything. Yeah.
So for instance, like I know for me that, so I have really big goals in powerlifting. And so in order for me to accomplish my goals in powerlifting, I have to have my recovery, my nutrition, my sleep, my stress management, everything on point, and not just my training, all of the other things. So I know myself well enough to know that when I travel, my recovery is really hindered, which means then my training's going to suffer. And so I have to have a contingency plan built in. So when I travel, sometimes my coach will just program deload that week if I'm going to travel. Or I know like, okay, I have to have everything on point. So that means that when I travel, I'm going to have to like really figure out all of my meals, because for me, food is one of the best ways for me to recover, like proper, adequate nutrition. And so I need to make sure that that's on point. And I need to make sure that I'm sleeping properly. And I need to, when I get back from traveling, cut out all like non-essential things out of my schedule. So I cut out like social events and different things like that, because I know that I'm going to need to like catch up on sleep a little bit. I'm going to be stressed out because I have to catch up on work a little bit. So like these are all things that absolutely could be huge obstacles. And I could just say, whoa, my training and my recovery sucked because I traveled. Or I could know myself and plan for it.
Yeah.
And so some things can't be planned for, like if you're a business owner, especially, or just someone at work who might be called to have to work like extra.
Yeah. Life happens. We're not saying life isn't going to happen,
right?
But we can do our best and plan for the things that we know are going to happen.
Right. Or even there, I think some of the unexpected stuff that we can sort of plan for. Like for instance, if it's at all possible that you could have to work extra, or like your dog gets sick, whatever it is, have food on hand at all times that you can easily make a meal with so that you can get in your proper nutrition for your training. Like there's a lot of things that I think that we can do that we don't think about because we don't take responsibility for those things. We think that things happen to us. And well, yeah, things do happen to us. What matters is how you respond to that.
Yeah.
And how you continue on in the face of it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, there might be something major that happens in life where you're like, whoa, I need to take a step back from this goal. Now is not the right time.
That's not what we're talking about.
Right.
That's a different podcast.
Right. But I think for all of us that have like, we just are trying to achieve things and also are working and have families or whatever, like it gets difficult, and you just have to be prepared for that when you set your goal and realize that there's so much stuff that you can control, and control what you can control and let go of what you can't.
This is where lifting and life kind of meet at a crossroads, right? Because yeah, we're talking about things in terms of nutrition, but this can be for anything. It can be for that career goal that you have. You're going to have things thrown at you. It could be for your personal life, relationships. You're going to have bumps in the road with your significant other. Now, do you bail ship every time you fight, or do you figure out how to work through it? Or do you come to the conclusion like, we can't work through this, and you do end up breaking up? But like, there's so many things that this can be applied to. We have to first start with, I think if we were to give steps, 1, if you're finding yourself really struggling with a goal, ask yourself where you are right now. Be honest in your self-evaluation. Who the hell are you? Write it down. Write the pros, write the cons, write everything down, and figure out who you are right now. And then figure out where you want to be. And if your current goal does not line up with where you want to be, change it. It's very simple. Yep. Change it. And that may be a little hard for some of us who still have our value tied to how others perceive us. But if you are working towards having a lot more self-confidence and figuring out who you are, changing your goal like that is just going to make you feel more empowered. You're going to feel like you've got this figured out. You're going to feel on top of the world. You're going to feel amazing. And it's going to be life-changing.
Absolutely. And I think then the other thing is just know that it's normal for it to get hard, and it's normal for you to question, why in the hell am I even doing this? Why am I even doing this? That's normal. Anytime you're trying to accomplish something that's difficult, it's normal to feel that way. And you have to just plan for the fact that you're going to feel that way, and that you have all of these systems in place for success anyway, that you just continue on that path. Now, if you're constantly having those feelings coming up, maybe you do need to reevaluate. But I think any of us that have achieved anything that was difficult, I remember Mary getting her PhD and she is like, I'm quitting. I'm going to quit. I hate this. I
was going
don't
to
want to
quit
do
halfway
this.
through. I was going to
Yep.
bail ship. And when it came down to it, I was like, you know what? I may not want to do exactly what my research is right now, but this is my goal. I need to follow through with my goal because it is important to me. It is who I am. And then if I follow through and never, ever touch it ever again, that's fine.
Right.
But I needed to get through it. But
Right.
it was hard.
I remember having conversations with you and I was like, Mary, you're getting your PhD. It's going to be hard. Like it's supposed to be hard. I remember chiropractic school was so freaking hard for me.
Lots of tears were shed.
It was lots of tears. It was like 3.5 years of just pure survival mode. It was, I mean, relationships suffered and my health suffered and all sorts of stuff suffered, but I wanted it so bad that I was like, okay, I got this. I can do this. I can do this. I can do that. And it was like, that became my mantra, just like, I can do this. Like one more thing. I got this. And it's supposed to be hard. That's what makes it awesome.
Yep.
When you get through it.
And you have to think of things in small bites. The big goal might be terrifying, but the next step is not so bad.
Right.
So if you find yourself struggling with getting towards your goals and you are really struggling with obstacles that are coming up, take inventory and just know that if you're doing something great, it's going to be hard, but you can do it. Keep pushing, and we will talk to you next week.
Bye, ladies.
Bye.